There's a inner special club kind of feeling when it comes to following paths of inspiration. I will elaborate. When in a higher state and you follow your intuition, which is to say inspiration's tool, you follow it and things will start to manifest and connections will start to be made, and you will be able to have much greater foresight of that particular route that you're choosing, right? That route to just follow your instinct, follow your intuition, follow inspiration's whispers. And in a sober state, like unexperienced, that sounds like scary grounds. Which I guess, yeah, if you're like a cult, then it is. But yeah, this is far from it. And yeah, if you follow inspiration and you were to leverage it to write a story about this unexplained, mystical truth-seeking that seems to just be unraveling the Earth's secrets, the universe's secrets, secrets to our experience, and so we feel like we're in this little inner club if we meet other individuals, and they're like, okay, what I'll get to is, some of my favorite books of fiction are fantasy fiction, and the author is Brandon Sanderson. And so he's written in all of these kind of characters with superpowers, if you can sum it up like that. It's really rich and interconnected, and some of it, it just makes so much sense. Even though you're reading it and you're like, whoa, I know it's fantasy fiction, but it always like feels like it makes sense somehow. And that's the genius behind the creative works and creative interpretations of inspiration's little whispers of truth, of how mechanisms do exist like that. And that is how the world can work if the conditions are right. It's not just black and white. And so we write these creative stories, and we are unsure of it making sense. We are unsure of it like actually being so. But we are so fascinated with this and the potential that it might not just be just some creative thinking from a lowly writer. No, it's a consistent and matching story of mechanisms that exist, true mechanisms of truth that exist. But you can represent it in a different way with different characters and different terminologies and different analogies. But it all has the same pattern. And so when things start to connect and we see the commonalities between these different narratives, and then we contact the writer behind it, the mind behind the expression, and we have conversations like, hey, all like great books and all, great stories, but this part about this character having a superpower to be able to do this, and understands how the nature of things work, and understands how you can learn something's name and you can attune to it and be conscious with that object or living creature or anything, any piece of mass, anything that we identify as being a separate physical element composed of lots of different moving parts, but we see it as a whole now. And so that also could be seen as a form of consciousness. It is not conscious, but it's still a form that's manifested through some, being of consciousness, which is us. Like, we make a lot of things that's lying around. We make all our furniture. We make all our cars and our buildings and all that stuff. So we manifest that. And so when we manifest, whatever we manifest, it's still a piece of consciousness. Even though we can only deem a certain few things that elevate themselves up to something that we call consciousness. Or, sorry, conscious. Conscious is self-aware. So, yeah. I'd love to reach out to Brandon Sanderson and have some talks about this particular element to his books, to his stories. The element that, the notion that you can actually be conscious with any particular thing in life. Not just an object, but it can be a process. It can be a path to understanding. It can be a path to develop your own abilities, skills. It can be anything. If you attune to that and you understand its nature, you're able to kind of just ride along with it. And you will understand it and yourself and how to manifest and manipulate existence to enable you to do whatever you want, be whatever you want. Restrictions of time and effort still apply, but it's like tuning into a frequency. It's a superpower to be able to just be the master of your own experience. How mind-blowing is that ability? And I think there are various creative works out there, mainly obviously under the banner of fiction and maybe fantasy with the character building and all that stuff and the worlds. But what if it's not? What if that element does actually exist? It's just we give it such mundane names, or we don't even recognize that it's a process in the first place. Imagine if discovering truths of supernatural abilities as we perceive it today was just the same as levels of being self-aware. Right? Like I said before, we can be coasting through life with not a care in the world, completely ignorant of oneself and how we conduct ourselves and how other people respond to us and how our abilities are to empathize with other people and to understand different processes. And never mind, flip the magnifying glass and investigate ourselves. How rare is it that we actually practice that level of self-awareness and scrutinize it and appreciate it objectively as well as subjectively, and once you better understand the nature of something, anything, then you're able to work with it, and it works with you. When you get to know a stranger, they open up to you. They trust you. You've gained rapport. You've gained empathy. You've gained sympathy. You've gained a connection. And so they will open up to you. And that's the nature of the world, I think. And that's no different to approaching any form that we can think of, any process. If we tune into that, just like we tune into a stranger, and we engage in conversation, and we exchange feedback, and we get to know one another, then, well, especially one way. I mean, I don't know to the extent of the things that I'll try and connect with, if they are able to connect with me back and understand my experience. I don't know. I'm still seeing myself as some kind of separate entity, right? So I still have my own limitations. But yeah, definitely this notion is becoming more and more frighteningly, like eerily true somehow. And it's all just unraveling. It's all just unfolding in front of me. And the only thing holding me back yet again is myself and my ability to just follow this intuition. Just do what I'm saying. Do what I'm saying. Right? If I'm to be a conduit to some, I don't know, higher intelligence, and I keep following my intuition, and not get too enthralled with the future projections, because that, I think, is something that I'm also prone to. Absolutely. I'm so prone to being attuned to a higher state. Gives me these abilities to be a conduit for information somehow from a higher intelligence. So I'm just narrating, I'm just transcribing these kinds of messages to the best of my verbal ability, verbal and cognitive, cerebral ability. But at the same time, I have got access to certain things. So I'm able to have that magnifying glass and focus it on any particular direction, and it will magnify the effects of it, and I will be able to know more and, just comprehend. And so focusing on the future, I think that's a tendency that I do too much, because it can get that can be a pitfall in itself, because you get so enthralled with future potential and future possibilities that are, you can feel the reality of that future situation like it's real, like it's truth. Like it's already there, right? And you can kind of link up to that. But the reality is that this reality is that we're still locked in these physical bodies, in this physical world, with ego and all this experience. And we still have to kind of like drag ourselves through it slowly, because we're so limited and heavy. And it takes a lot of time for us to do stuff and manifest stuff. So, it feels awesome to be a part of this journey, but at the same time frustrating that I have so much work to do on myself, and realizations so that I can be more efficient with how I'm using these, I guess, responsibilities. Okay, that just sounds way too high and mighty. Right. As long as none of this is really meant to be out and into the world, but I've acknowledged that as well. I just need to put myself out there, lean into that fear, disprove its potency. So yeah, recording voice notes, completely authentic. Right. What was I saying? Don't get distracted. Oh, this has been a long one, so maybe this is the same one about Brandon Sanderson. God, if it feels like I go through epic adventures in my own, like inner consciousness, and then I return to this one, and yeah, I'm so limited with memory and time.